Well, I've been to 6 synods so far. This will be my 7th, every one since 1998. I've served on a couple of sessional committees as well. I've been on the resolutions committee and I've been an assessor. This will be my 4th time as an assessor, so that's always a lot of fun. I've been twice as a volunteer, so although this will be my 7th synod, it'll be my 5th time as a delegate, my first time coming from the Diocese of Edmonton. I think it was just the excitement about it. Being there with people who were so committed to the church and so committed to their faith that they would give up 10 days, and mostly 10 days of sleep as well, to spend all that time plowing through resolutions and reports and seriously and prayerfully debating and coming to the best conclusions that they could in the process of debate and ultimately voting. I think that was probably the biggest surprise. Maybe I shouldn't have been surprised, but it was very gratifying. So the assessors are people who are learned in procedure, particularly, mostly lawyers. I'll be probably the only non-lawyer there, although I'm a canonist, so that's a kind of lawyer, but not the sort who can help you sue anybody. So the assessors help the chair to interpret the rules of order and the canons. That's their primary role. That's their formal role. So the assessors are there to advise the chair, normally the primate, although it could be the prolocutor as well, to advise the chair on matters of procedure and on interpretation of the canons. Anybody can see them. They're available free for the taking, for downloading from Anglican.ca. Look for the handbook. The handbook gives us everything. It gives us our Declaration of Principles, our Constitution, our Rules of Order, the canons, of course, and a number of appendices, which make really good reading. Well, we have to have ways of coming to conclusions as to what the Spirit is calling the Church to do. This goes back right to Acts chapter 15, in fact. There's a whole theology of synods, actually, that people maybe don't think about too often. They think about the procedures, but don't really think about the theology. And if you look in Acts chapter 15, the elders of the church met to decide a very, very controversial question. The question was whether Gentile Christians needed to be circumcised or not. And so, as you see in the Acts account of it, there was some discussion, some debate, and somehow they came to a conclusion, although Luke, not being a canonist, didn't actually tell us what the rules of order were, but they did come to a conclusion. And then they reported, "It seems good to the Holy Spirit and to us." And that's what we're doing at Synod, exactly the same thing. We're trying to discern what the Holy Spirit is telling the Church on any given issue. Whether it seems to be a controversial issue or it seems to be a fairly routine issue, doesn't matter. We're trying to determine what the Spirit is telling us. And the mechanism by which we do that is the mechanism that we've evolved in Synod. We use discussion, presentations, debate, and we vote. It's really quite straightforward. Pretty much all the delegates who will come have participated in some form of debate or other, whether in a parish annual meeting or in a diocesan synod, and of course there'll be a lot who've been to provincial synods as well, or General Synod itself. So debate is really not that scary. You get 3 minutes to make your point. So the key issue is, what's your point? What do you think God is saying? And how can you put that forward in 3 minutes? 3 minutes is actually longer than it sounds, but you still need to be succinct. And it really helps if you're listening to what other people are saying, because debate isn't meant to be a bunch of voices going into an echo chamber. Debate is meant to be about an exchange of ideas. And so listen to what the others are saying. And if somebody else has already said what you were going to say, you probably don't need to say it. You have the right to. But if somebody else has said something, you think, well, actually, maybe I've got a slightly alternative view, or maybe I can help to reinforce that in a certain way. Or maybe the person was saying something that I can say better. So that's fine. Anybody has the right to speak. And so you just stand up and wait to be recognized at a microphone. The chair, normally the primate, will say, right, microphone 3, and off you go. You've got your 3 minutes. I don't know if there'll be bright lights this time, but there have been very bright lights, so don't be afraid if suddenly you're blinded because there's bright lights in your face. That's okay. Just carry on and breathe and say what you have to say. And be convincing. Be convincing. That's the key thing. It's important to say clearly and convincingly what you've got to say. Actually, there's going to be a couple of different ways of voting, I suspect, at this General Synod. So sometimes probably we'll have votes by hand, so you just put your hand up, yes, put your hand up, no, and that's that. And sometimes we'll be using some little voting devices, voting terminals they'll be called, or clickers for short. And so there will be a button to push for yes and a button to push for no. That's the mechanics. But the real issue here is to think for a second. What have you heard in the debate? Have you heard anything that has convinced you one way or another? What's your gut telling you? What's your heart telling you? What's the Spirit of God telling you? And when you come to the conclusion that, yes, I think that I'm called to support this particular motion, then you vote yes. And if you think, no, I don't think this is actually in the best interest of the church, or I'm not called to support it, then you vote no. You have the right to vote either way, and so it's that simple. There are some funny procedures around voting in General Synod. They're getting less funny, fortunately. Veterans will tell you that it's very complicated because the clergy and lay all vote together and the bishops all vote separately. Actually, that's not really true anymore. Because the last General Synod made a big change to the way we function, and for most normal, ordinary level of resolutions, everybody votes together. So that's pretty straightforward. So you can think of a kind of sort of a series of levels of resolutions. So you've got sort of ordinary resolutions, like adopting the minutes, or saying that global warming is a bad thing, or that sort of thing. I don't know what resolutions are coming, but that kind of thing. That's a fairly straightforward, ordinary resolution. Everybody votes together. Clergy, lay, bishops, all together, one vote, yes, no, done. Then we've got some really high-level resolutions. So those are resolutions on things like the Constitution, or amendments to certain kinds of canons having to do with doctrine or discipline. Those are the highest level. Those are the most complicated. In that, we split up into 3 different groups: clergy, lay, and bishops, and we all vote separately. And for those ones, we need a 2/3 majority, and we need 2 readings. So if something is adopted by a 2/3 majority in the clergy, lay, and bishops, in each of those, this time, we still have to come back next time in 2019 to change it. So I know that there's a resolution affecting the Constitution this time round. That only gets 1 reading. But if we were to change the Declaration of Principles, there's another one coming for the Declaration of Principles, that's going to take 2 readings. So we can only really kind of get halfway there this time. That's the highest level and the most complicated. There's still a little vestige of the old system of voting, and the change proposed to the Declaration of Principles is actually to get rid of that, just as a kind of cleanup. And in that case, then it is clergy and laity voting together and bishops voting separately. Hopefully that won't be too confusing, but it will come up a few times if we are adopting canonical changes this time. If it sounds a little complicated, don't worry. Whoever's in the chair will say exactly how we're going to vote, and if you've got a question, you can always ask a question. So don't worry about it being too complicated. It's actually pretty simple. And for the most complicated votes, I imagine we'll probably use the clickers, so that'll just make it that much easier. So don't worry about it. People have to vote. Nobody's allowed to abstain unless you've got a conflict of interest, which you declare, and it does come up sometimes. But no, people are there to listen to what the Spirit is telling them. So it's not a mail-in vote, it's not a directed vote. Somebody might say, I think we should support this, and they might give you good, compelling reasons why you should support it, and you might conclude that that's correct. But you need to listen to your own heart and your own conscience in voting. Resolutions actually come from a variety of places, and we have three categories of resolution. So the A resolutions are resolutions that come from a national committee or from the Council of General Synod, and we'll see some of those coming. And those resolutions get priority in the order paper. The B resolutions are resolutions that are sent by diocesan synods, and so they get a second priority. And then there are C resolutions, and C resolutions come from any member of General Synod. You do have to be a member. You can't sort of mail one in if you're not a member. But if you're a member of General Synod, you can bring a resolution with you, or some might arise in the middle of the time, in the middle of the Synod. We've got a week at Synod, and so it might be that a resolution sort of comes to you as you participate in Synod. However, it should be noted that a C resolution will get bottom priority and might not necessarily get voted on, especially if it comes in fairly close to the end of the Synod. There will be a cutoff time after which you can't bring a resolution, but sometimes they're deferred to the Council of General Synod to be addressed. We do try to get to all the resolutions, though. One of the things that we do at General Synod is we have something called a no debate list. So that's a list of resolutions that, in the view of the Resolutions Committee, are relatively uncontroversial and that can be dealt with fairly quickly. And so in those cases, nobody gets to debate them. They're presented briefly by the mover. They do have to be seconded, but even the seconder can't speak to it. And then we vote right away. So that way we sort of deal with a lot of business that's not very controversial very quickly. Now, if you happen to think that something's controversial and it's on the no debate list, you can go and ask for it to be removed, because presumably that means you actually want to debate it. So that's fine too. But it's a mechanism to help us get through a lot of business all in a short time. There will be elections as well. So there will be some people whose names will be put forward to be elected to a variety of positions. So, for example, we'll be electing a new prolocutor. Some people say prolocutor, I say prolocutor, there it is. We'll be electing a new deputy prolocutor as well. And we'll be electing people to the Council of General Synod, and we'll be electing people for a few national committees as well. So elections, of course, are a little bit different because we don't do it by show of hands. There'll be balloting processes, and the details will be explained very, very clearly when you get there. The one thing that probably freaks people out the most is the complexity of trying to vote for people for the Council of General Synod. And all I can say is the procedure is a little bit like trying to understand the Holy Trinity. I get it right for about 5 minutes a year just so I can preach on Trinity Sunday, and then I lose it again. So it's okay. There will be very learned people who will explain that procedure too. So just pay attention, ask questions if you need to, and off you go. It all works. Just trust the process. It works.